All right, so this video will be about how to set up a GitHub account. I'm not going to go through all the steps of how to set it up. How to use that GitHub account to connect to something like NetBeans, so NetBeans and GitHub connected together. I'll also show how to create an access token, because you'll need that to connect in NetBeans, and how to create a branch. Now, this specific video will be based on the example for my 42S AP course. But, I mean, it's also transferable knowledge to other courses if you just have some general knowledge about that. So I'm going to start by going to my class website, and specifically the AP course. And I've already created a project on there on GitHub. And if you're a student who's been in my class, you've used GitHub at various levels, just as a viewer or maybe as someone who can get some code from. But what I want to do with GitHub is I want to go to just the main GitHub page. So I'm going to leave this here, and I'm just going to Google search GitHub and go to the main page of GitHub. And what I want to do is create an account. So right now I'm already logged in as myself. So I'm going to sign out. Okay. Just go back to GitHub. Okay. So if I was on GitHub and I wanted to create an account, actually let me try this a slightly different way. So I'm just random student going to GitHub. Right, and I'm on GitHub. What I would want to do is I would want to create an account so that I can sign in. And that way I have an account on GitHub. So what I'm going to do is sign up for a GitHub account. And again, I'm not going to go through all the process, but if any of you who do not have a GitHub account, I would definitely recommend this. So you would enter your email, you would enter all your credentials, and then you would have a GitHub account that you could sign into. Once you're signed into the GitHub account, you can use that account to connect to IDEs like NetBeans. But what you'll need in order to access NetBeans and be able to access GitHub features is you need what's called an access token. Okay? It'll act as your password on GitHub. Okay, so here's how you do this. Once you're logged into your GitHub account, okay, you'll notice you have in the corner whatever picture you used when you created your account, or if you didn't upload a picture, I'm not sure what it would be, probably just some symbol or something. But if you click on that to access the pieces of your account, right, all this stuff here, your account, that's where I would go, is I would go to my profile, GitHub. From here, what I would do is click on this little menu button over in the corner here to bring up a bunch of things. And that's not what I want. Just going to try this again. Go back to my account. Oh, sorry, my apologies. What you have to do is go, again, to your account and then go down here to settings. We're going to go to settings to get at this access token. So I'm going to go to settings. Okay, here I am. And now on this side, I'm going to scroll down to developer settings. Okay, so it's just at the bottom of settings, developer settings. Now you will see the option for personal access tokens. Okay, right now GitHub has two versions, the fine-grained token and the classic token. We're going to be using the classic token because I know that one works. So I'm going to go to classic tokens, and I'm going to generate a new token. Again, once you click that, it's going to give you the option again to generate the new beta version, but we're going to not use that one. Instead, we're going to generate the classic token. You need this token to act as a password when you get to NetBeans. If you're not already signed into GitHub, you need to sign in. Okay, you need to use, in this case, I'm going to use two-factor authenticity. Again, this might depend on how you had it set up when you were building your account. So I'm just looking up my authentic code right now. I'm verifying in. Okay, and now I'm ready to create my access token. All right, so the first thing you need to do is give it a note. This is just required. This is just something you need just in general. Doesn't really matter what you put here, but you again may want to put in that this is your CS, like 42 SAP shared example or something like that. That's just the note. No, you can put spaces in it. That's fine. You don't have to make it a code thing. Under expiry, so there's various ways you could look at this. The token will expire after a certain amount. You could set it to a custom date, like for example, the end of your course. That's fine. I'm going to risk it and put no expiration. It doesn't recommend that at all because then it's just an always available token, but you can certainly do that, okay? Then there's a whole bunch of options to look through if you want, right? There's a lot of options that you can look through for this no expiration, like what kind of access do you want to provide to it and stuff like that. If you had set like 60 days or 90 days or a custom date, like for example, maybe you want to set it for, you know, like June the 1st or something like that, right? You can certainly do that. And then you can, again, set these various levels, right? Read and write, access, etc. Again, you can get lost with the details. So I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to set it for no expiration, okay? And just sort of make sure that I have kind of the access I want, and then click Generate Token. At that point, you will be given a token. It's a weird sort of series of numbers and letters, and there's a button that you can use to copy it. You can immediately delete it if you want to rebuild it, okay? And that's where your token will be. You will copy that token value to use in the next step when we go to NetBeans next, okay? So that's the basic feature for creating a token in off the GitHub site. Okay, so now in the next step of this video, I'm going to now use that access token within NetBeans itself, right? So here in NetBeans, okay, sorry for that pause there. I just had a quick discussion with my class, and we're going to just make a slight change to what I just showed. So I'm just going to quickly, once again, make another new token, okay, a classic token. I'm just going to put in an example. I'm going to set the expiry to no expiration. But here's the thing I want to add. I want to do a check off here. In the previous one, I didn't check anything off. But what I'm going to suggest for sure that you guys check off is the workflow option. This allows you to update actions and stuff. So make sure at least that's checked off. Potentially could check off other things as well, but that's the one I'm going to recommend. And then generate the token. Okay? So now the token's ready for me to copy and use the token. Now, here I am in NetBeans. Let's say I have nothing open. What I would now do from NetBeans is I want to connect to that GitHub repository that I'm then going to have access to as a GitHub user. So I'm going to go up here under Team and then go to Git. This is built right in to NetBeans. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone, which means it's going to take a copy of the GitHub repository project off of the website and put a local copy on my machine, a clone of it, but allow me to push and pull from that. So I'm going to clone it. Team, git, clone. At this point, before we worry about the URL, we're going to need to log in with your username, okay? That'll be your GitHub username. I believe you can use both either your username itself from GitHub or the email address you used off of GitHub. So now if you look here under your GitHub, you could potentially just use that username. I generally use the email address that I signed up with, right? So you can see that right in here that I actually used my mrwalks@gmail.com email address as part of my GitHub. But the password is the access token. That's the key there. So at that point, what you would do is you would copy this access token and paste it into the password part, okay? So the password is the access token. If you want to, you can test your connection by clicking on proxy connection and test connection. You should get a little check mark. So if you're doing this at home, You may want to just do this once to make sure that you're properly connecting. But as well, you now need to put in a URL repository. Now, this isn't the right one, so I'm going to erase this one. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now, from our AP site, go to that GitHub example, and I'm going to use this site. That's the address I'm going to go to. I'm going to take that over to here. Now I'm going to tell it where I want the clone to go. So where's this clone repository go? I'm just going to pop it right on my desktop for this video. So right onto my desktop. Actually, I'll make a folder on my desktop. Computer Science 42 SAP. So it's going to go right into that folder. So it's going to go all the way to my desktop, and then into that folder, it's going to make another folder and put example 2024 in there, hopefully. So I've got, this is the crucial step, right? You've created a GitHub account. You've created an access token. You've used the GitHub credentials, your username or email, and the access token as the password. You've picked the URL of the GitHub repository that you're cloning, and you've selected the location where it's going to be cloning into. So before I do this, I'm just going to show you on my desktop, in that folder, it is currently empty. There's nothing in there. So hopefully this works. So I'm going to click Next. Cannot connect. Okay, sorry for that pause again. We were just working out some of the details and stuff. But I think we got it now. So here's the idea. Now, whoops. So now what we have is we have this web address. Now what I've actually done is I've gone one step back. Because if you click this link to our GitHub example, it actually goes to one of the branches. I'm going to be talking about branches in a sec. So it's actually going to this example branch. And what I want to do is go back to the main branch. So I'm just going to remove a little bit off this web address and just go all the way back to just here. Okay? Just to the main 42SAP link. I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to take that link and put it right here. You can see here, it's going to my GitHub page, Mr. Elwalks, and this specific example. Another way you could look at how you could get at that example, by the way, just for me and my students, is if you were on my main page and you went to just GitHub itself, my GitHub. So here's the GitHub/Mr. Walks GitHub page. And then you picked a repository like this AP repository. It's a public repository. You just clicked on it. Then you would also get to that main repository page for the AP. Or if you were, say, a 40S student or a 30S student, you could have also done the same thing. You could have went back to the 40S page and stuff like that. So anyways, once I have that in there and I have the proper username, which again, there was a debate in my class, should you just use the username, should you use the email? It looks like both can work. And for the password, you use your access token. Then you set where the clone's going to go. So right now you can see there's nothing in this folder. I'm going to click Next. Okay, so at this point, what you're going to have is various branches that you can bring into your clone. The one you're going to need for sure is maybe the master branch and maybe the starting branch, but feel free to check off more. Now I'm just going to wipe those out for a second. Also the one you're going to need is the branch for your year. So I'm going to need this one for the example from 2024, and I might need the master branch, and I might need this. So if you want to be sure, just check them all off. It just means which of these it's going to clone over. The one you need for sure is the example for this year. What these will be up here will be various branches for all the students in the class as we build them. That's going to be the next part of the video I'm going to show. You can see at least 2 students have already built their branches. All right, so I'm going to check them all off just to be sure. I'm going to click Next. Okay, I'm going to click Finish. You will now notice this folder will start to populate with the things it's bringing in. Right, so it's creating this project, and then I can open the project. So here is the actual project in NetBeans now with all the Java packages and Java files. Okay. Now, at this point, up here in NetBeans, it will show you which branch you are on. So we are currently by default right now on the master branch. Go to our class page, and I went to the GitHub. It wouldn't be on the master branch. You can see right here that it's saying it's on the example branch. But right here, I can change it back to the master branch if I want to. Or I can change to all the other branches that are available to me. This would include any of your classmates as we start to set up branches. So that's how I can switch on the internet. In NetBeans, how I can switch and how I switch is I right-click on the project. I go down to Git, down here. So I right-click, Git, then I go over to Branch. So I right-click, Git, Branch, and there's a Switch to Branch option. So that allows me to switch to whatever branch I want to be on. So I'm going to switch over to the example branch. So right-click, Git, Branch, Switch to Branch, and I'm going to go to Example 2024. Click Switch. So now, whatever I open here, so if I go into a curriculum unit and I open up a file, right, and I go in and edit that file, put code in it, like I'm just going to put, for good luck, hello world in here, okay? This can now be part of that branch. So if I hit save, the words hello world are in this Java file on line 51. However, if I switch back to another branch, like for example, the master branch should stay clean. It should be essentially empty. Or that's also what I set up the starting branch to be, is a clean branch where no changes occur. Switch to that branch, okay? And now I'm on the master branch, okay? So now I'm on a different branch, right? Is that save going to be put there, or is it just going to be on my branch? If I switch over to another branch, say one of these ones that the students maybe are starting to set up, right? And I switch to that. Would it be there, right? So then the next part of GitHub you need to know about is the push and the pull process. Push is you sending whatever changes you make up to the internet, and the pull is the opposite, taking changes off the internet and incorporating them into your project. Before any of that takes place, though, from the push standpoint, you need to create what's called a commit. You commit your changes to your project, and then you could push them up there. So I'm going to try that right now. I have added the words hello world to the example branch. I'm going to switch back to that branch. Switch to branch, example. Okay. So on this branch right now are the words hello world. However, if I go on the internet right now and I go over to that example, so from the master branch, go to example. From example, I go into the source files. I go into testing. I go into 42 SAP, curriculum, units, unit 1 primitive types. You notice the words hello world are not on line 51 yet because I haven't committed it and I haven't pushed it. So let's see if this works. So I'm now going to right click, Git, and now I'm going to point out this option right here, commit. Think of that kind of like saving, but saving in a larger sense. You're committing these changes you've made. So I'm going to right click, oops, Git, commit. Okay? You can add messages to this, but I'm just going to hit commit. Say yes, committed. Okay? That doesn't mean the change is here yet. If I refresh this page, you can see there's still no change to line 51 at this point. Line 51 still remains nothing. That's because I have to do the next step. I'm going to push this. So I'm now going to go to right-click, Git, Remote, Push. So I'll push my committed changes up to our repository. So now you can see, if I commit locally and push, it's not really still making a change on the internet. I have to switch this to my Git location on the internet. My credentials should still be there. And now I'm going to click Next. And now I can decide which branch I'm committing. So you don't want to always commit all the branches, because then that can cause problems between other people. You're going to commit your branch, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm going to commit this example branch, not the master, and not anything else. So just next, finish. Hopefully you should be successful. And if you are successful, now when I refresh this page, you can see that the change I made is committed, so that everybody can now have access to it. So that's some of the basics of GitHub. The idea of the commit and the push, right? The commit is, think of it like a fancy save. The push means I'm now giving it up onto the internet. Okay, now the next part of this video, what I wanted to do was to teach all the students how to create your own branch, so that you can create your own branch and add your own code to it. To do this, you can do this right from NetBeans. Same process. Right-click, Git, Branch. And now you can go to the Create Branch option. Click, Git, Branch, Create Branch. So then you're going to obviously name your branch, right? So as a student in this class, make it so that, you know, your classmates know who you are, and I know who you are, right? You can use a nickname. That's okay, as long as you share that nickname with your classmates, right? Whatever you're comfortable with, put that in there as the name, okay? I'm going to make a Mr. Walks branch, okay? Mr. Walks teacher. And that'll be my branch for now. And I'm going to click Create. Now, that doesn't mean you're now on that branch. You have to check and make sure that it is now identifying that if you are on that branch, it will probably show it here in NetBeans. If you're not sure, you can always go back to Git, Branch, switch to Branch. Whoops. And pick the right branch, right? So I'm going to switch to Mr. Walks Teacher. Make sure I'm on that branch. Okay? Now, in theory, I can add more changes. It's Mr. Walks, your teacher, exclamation points. So I can make whatever changes I want, save my local file, and when I'm ready, I can commit that file, and I can push it if I need to. So now I can go here, Git, Remote, Push. Okay, specify the location. Pick which branch I'm going to be pushing. So I'm just going to push the new branch I created. And now, if I needed to, I could switch to that new branch. I might have to refresh so the internet knows I've made some changes. Go to that branch. Go to line 51 and see the changes have been committed. Okay? I can switch back to other branches, right? Like the example branch. Go down to line 51 and see the other changes. So this will allow you to go between your classmates and see various notes and examples in that way, right? Now there's also the pull feature, which we'll get to maybe next time. But that's sort of the basics of creating a branch. Well, let's do the summary. So I showed you guys how to create a GitHub account, how to create an access token, how to connect it to GitHub, bring in a local copy, but also be able to commit that to that local copy and push, and how to create your own branch so that you have that available to you. Okay,